Welcome to the Ed Buggs Show. Real talk, real people.
So are you telling me you doctors don't have all the answers?
That's right. Confused about the difference between a parent and a pal. There is a huge difference.
Syndicated talk show host Ed Buggs and his team take on some of the hottest, most thought-provoking topics there are, and nothing is off limits. Now, here's your host, Ed Buggs.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome aboard, everyone. Good to have you here on the Ed Buggs Show. Real talk, real people with Josh and Tommy and Dirk and Matt and, of course, Moses Jackson. I'm Ed Buggs. Thank you, one and all, for being with us today in this hour. Those of you in radio, it's not our first hour this afternoon. Good to have you back on 1550 AM WPFC. 1550 AM WPFC. For those of you joining us in television, it's a brand new hour. Good to have you here as well, and welcome on the internet, those of you listening to us at edbuggs.com. Again, that's edbuggs.com. Matt, you well today?
Yeah, checked out that internet thing, the listen live at edbuggs.com.
All right.
Pretty cool.
Sounds clear?
Yeah, sounds clear, and
Okay.
just a little, 2-second delay, but hey, I can deal with that.
Okay, well, you know it, but nobody else does.
Well, if they're in town, they do.
Yeah, well, you're not. Okay. But you'd only know it if you were in your, in your car.
phone.
Yeah, answer the phones. All right, we are pleased you are all with us today. Boy, have you been following the efforts in Louisiana to get their acts together after Katrina? The main focus one of the main focuses right now has been to get one central levee board. Until now, there was a levee board over here and a levee board over there, here a levee board, there a levee board, everywhere a levee board. And they were not moving together. They were fiefdoms, or fiefdoms as some people refer to them. And the big effort now has been to revamp levee operations and come up with a joint focus. One group, one voice, one big board watching everything. And efforts to do that have been stymied, delayed, put off, and maybe even put up on the shelf for now. Here to talk more about it is one of the Louisiana State Senators, Jay Darden, who has been right on top of this from the very beginning. Mr. Darden, Jay, welcome. Thanks for being here, my friend. I can hear you are at the Capitol now.
Glad to be with you. I'm actually on the floor of the Senate right now. We're debating a bill dealing with housing, so I'm kind of listening with one ear and talking to you with the other.
Listen, I appreciate it. Tell us exactly what's happening with this whole consolidation effort for a levee right now, one, and two, how this impacts how America is watching what we're doing.
The bill right now is being debated on the House floor. It was debated at length yesterday in the Senate, and the author put the bill back on the calendar. It's a geographic debate as much as it is a debate over consolidation of the levee boards, because there's an awful lot of local politics involved in the manner in which these boards are constructed. I'm hopeful that we're going to come away with a bill that does consolidate the management of the levees in southeast Louisiana. I think it's critical that if we do it, though, we do it right, and we don't do it just for the sake of saying we've done something. And so that's what I'm keeping an eye on in the next several days as to what happens, because I'm not convinced that the political posturing that's going on right now, I'm not sure that the version that's going to come out of the House is going to effectuate real reform, and that's what I'm on the lookout for.
If you take a step back from this for a moment, and I really appreciate this time, how does this speak to the nation in terms of what Louisiana is doing to help itself?
It's important that we have some type of a consolidation bill that does away with the political patronage that has driven the makeup of the levee boards. That's important, I think, as a signal to the state and to the rest of the nation. There are a lot of issues involved in this that go beyond the simple mantra of one board, though. You have to look at a lot of issues dealing with bonded indebtedness, taxing power, management, control. There are some legitimate issues that have to be debated and are appropriate for is that we need to consolidate the management of these boards because of the political problems that have been so rampant with these boards over the years. I will tell you, though, this is not the be-all and end-all. This is an appropriate step that we ought to take. There are obvious issues related to the Corps of Engineers who are responsible for design and construction of these levees, though, and we also need to be cognizant that that needs to change as well, and there needs to be responsibility at the Corps level for some of the failures that we saw.
Finally, are you encouraged that this consolidation will take place?
Yes, I was more encouraged at the beginning of the session, frankly, than I am right now. In my view, the governor has been totally remiss in her leadership on this issue in the Senate. I saw yesterday on the Senate floor no action by the administration to support Senator Boisseau in his efforts, and in fact, the amendment that resulted in the bill being returned to the calendar was supported by and large by most of the administration floor leaders. So that's one of the issues that we're having to deal with, is where is the administration on this issue, and how is the politics going to be put together to pass the bill. So I think it can be accomplished. If it's not accomplished during this special session, I think it will ultimately be accomplished during the regular session, but I remain hopeful that we'll come out with something that's meaningful in the course of the next 4 days. But again, it must be meaningful. It can't just be window dressing.
Senator Jay Darden with us this afternoon. Jay, thank you for taking the time. We can hear that you are busy taking care of business. Thank you, my friend, as always.
Good to visit with you.
You bet. Jay Darden, who is one of those leading the fight for Louisiana to consolidate all of those levee boards. Let me tell you something that some of you know and some of you may not. Several of these levee boards had grown in power, had grown in area, had grown in influence. They were not necessarily made up of people who know something about a levee, but in many of these cases, if your brother-in-law made a substantial contribution, I mean, it came down to just that bare-boned, simplistic politics. If you were making a significant contribution to so-and-so, or if you had great influence, you had social capital, as it's referred, oftentimes you would be tapped to be on a levee board. Doesn't matter that you know anything about levees. Don't have to. Then we had many levee boards that controlled not only levees, controlled airport districts. We had some levee boards that controlled taxation in areas. It became and some of you know what I'm talking about. It had become an out-of-control morass. It had become an out-of-control. It was an animal unto itself. Oh. And by the way, the levees were in pretty bad shape despite having all these levee boards. So now the concern is, as you heard the state senator represent, to consolidate them and to be focused in what we're doing and bring in the right people in to give them guidance on these levee boards. Do you think that Louisiana politicians will come together and do the right thing? Talk to me. Call me now in the 225 area code at 499-BUGGS, 499-BUGS, or toll free from anywhere at 866-900-9732, 866-900-9732, or locally at 499-BUGGS, 499-2847, or shoot me an email. Send it now to ed@edbugs.com. Again, that's ed@edbugs.com. Plus, have you heard the news out of Washington today about Hurricane Katrina? I'll share that with you and bring in your phone calls, and I got a couple emails in already. Next, we got a lot to talk about. Nobody move. You're listening to the Ed Buggs Show. Real talk, real people. We'll be back.
Run. Yeah. Take cover. Ah! The women and children.
Right here.
The Ed Buggs Radio Show is on the air.
Good.
Welcome back. Good to have you here on the Ed Buggs Show. Real talk, real people. I'll tell you, it is not a pretty sight in terms of Louisiana's apparent ability to get it together subsequent to Hurricane Katrina. If you're just joining us, perhaps only now turning on the radio, you missed it earlier today when State Senator Jay Darden was with us, making it clear that they are not seeing the leadership from the governor's office that's necessary to push through bills to consolidate, not that that's the sole answer, but at least to get all of these levee boards on the same page at the same time. And then you've got some districts and some areas who don't want to participate, and others want to have their own little kingdom going on, and it's a mess. It's a mess. They're meeting in special session right now, but there's more to this story. There's a lot more to this story. This is one giant cluster. Clint Eastwood had a phrase for this. These audits released today about Katrina, released from Washington. Have you heard about this? Have you been keeping up with this? This is shocking. You talk about waste? Wait until you hear this. It turns out now that in the rush to provide Katrina aid, disaster aid, FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, wasted an estimated millions of dollars and overpaid for hotel rooms, including $438 a night, Matthew. $438 a night lodging in New York City. $438 a night. So we took these people who were displaced by the storm in New Orleans. We flew them all over the country out of an effort to do the right thing. Okay, let's all agree on that. Through an effort to do the right thing, including some we flew to New York City for $438 a night.
$438 a night?
A night.
I've never stayed in a hotel.
Thank you.
$438 a night anywhere.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to take these people. And by the way, last week I saw some of the interiors of the hotel rooms where some of these evacuees have been staying. There ought to be a law. There ought to be a law. What has happened, what has become, what has happened to some of these hotel rooms. But that's for a different day. We'll talk about that one. We've really got to talk about that one, but that's on another day. The reports come from the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, the other from the Homeland Security Department. Estimates are that the initial estimates are that up to 900,000 of the 2.5 million, that's almost half, up to 900,000 of the 2.5 million applicants who got aid from FEMA's emergency cash program, you know, the $2,000 debit cards, that kind of thing. Up to 900,000 of those people got the money based on duplicate or false Social Security numbers. So you had people walking up with, psst, give me a Social Security number. I'm gonna put somebody else's on, with a made-up Social Security number or someone else's Social Security number and took the money. Plus, they had false addresses. So now, how are you going to track me? The answer? You aren't. So let me get this straight. We've got up to 900,000 of this 2.5 million people who are fudging, lying, and faking. They gave you a false name with a false Social Security number or a Social Security number that belongs to somebody and it wasn't them, and they took the money. And how are you going to catch them? The answer? You're not. They're gone. This explains why you had so many people buying alligator skin boots. We got a phone call into the show from a stereo store owner asking the question, am I supposed to charge these people sales tax? Because I got a lady putting in a $1,300 car stereo, paying for it with a FEMA card, and she insists she should not be charged taxes. Do I charge her taxes? I wonder if she got her card with a false name and a false Social Security number. Ridiculous. Let me go to the phones now at 499-BUGGS, 499-2847. Jimmy, you're on the air. Hey, Jimmy.
What's going on, Ed?
Can you believe this?
Oh, man. Look, I don't know. Of course, I live out in Livingston. And I think the problem is that with this quote-unquote consolidated levee district, we're still seeing the same old song and dance.
Mm-hmm.
They've decided that, okay, because Livingston Parish borders on Lake Maurepas, well, we're going to include Livingston in, but we're not going to include East Baton Rouge. We're not going to include Ascension, which has the Mississippi River on one side, and the south side borders on Lake Maurepas. So it's the same old shuck and jive. It's pick one, not this one, not the other one. Now, I know I'm, a little common here, but why not just take the entire levee system from Faraday all the way south and put it under DOTD, put it under Department of Administration or something of that nature, and let one state agency run it for everybody.
But if you do it that way, then I lose my power. If you do it that way, I lose my control over here in my neck of the woods. If you do it that way, that means that I'm on the same level field with everybody else. And I don't want to do that.
Well, and the dirty little secret, if you will, that's in this bill is that this levee board will have taxing authority.
Mm-hmm.
And people south of I-12 in Livingston Parish can be made to pay a property tax without a vote. It's going to be just part of the taxing authority. We have no flood control projects. We have no levees.
Yeah.
Why should we pay that money?
When in reality the flood control and the levees would be someplace else.
Right.
Okay, Jimmy, thank you, my friend. Wait, Jimmy, you still there?
I'm here.
Let me ask you one other thing. When you see this millions of dollars wasted, completely wasted in Katrina aid, what goes through your mind?
And I hate to even get started on that. I had arguments with people that I considered to be fairly upstanding, law-abiding citizens.
Yes.
That would look me dead in the eye and say, go get it. You need to go get this. Here's a $1,500 card they're giving out. Here's $2,000 over here. I said, God, I didn't lose anything.
Right.
I was out of lights for a day or two. I mean, it was an inconvenience at most. If not illegal, it was immoral for me to go take that money.
That's right.
But I was amazed at the number of people that go to church every Sunday and stand in that line and get them checks.
And now it's coming to light. Jimmy P., always a pleasure, my friend. Good to talk with you at 499-BUGGS, 499-BUGS. Did you hear that? Surprised at the number of people who said, go get it. Well, now it's coming home to roost. We now know that 900,000, that's a damn shame. I don't like to use the damn word. I'm not supposed to use it. But that's a shame. 900,000 people? That's outright greedy. That's outright, hey, as long as they're giving it away, let's go get some. You know what? If the estimates are that 900,000 people took advantage of this when they weren't supposed to, that means there's people listening and people watching right now who are feeling a little queasy or who ought to be. Let me take a couple of more calls before I get to the end of this segment. Kevin joining us now at 499-BUGGS. Hey, Kevin!
Hey.
Yes.
I got a question in one of mine. All the people they house. Now, how many military bases did we close down?
Countless.
I mean, why we didn't put these people on military base? You got military police, you got mess halls, you got hundreds of places to put people, equipment. You got the army just sitting there waiting to run these places, and they're already paid for it. And I could never understand that.
For a lot less than $438 a night.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, we got a system that's just ready to run, and we got all these military bases sitting up there. with no money, we could have put all those folks in there, and you could have saved all these people property value and the crime rates, and put them in place where they come forward with the MPs, and you could bring in extra people if you need. I just couldn't understand. They missed a big one on that one.
They did.
You need to consider doing that, you know?
Kevin, thank you. Great call. When we come back, I want to talk about Kevin's suggestion. Why weren't military bases used? And why are we now stuck with this incredible bill? Nobody move. The Ed Buggs Show continues.
Telling it like it is. Like it is. You're listening to the Ed Buggs Radio Show.
Line 2. Hang on, Irby. These audits released today show that thousands of additional dollars appear to have been squandered on hotel rooms for evacuees. And these hotel rooms were not paid at what's called contractor's lowest cost. They were paid at straight retail. In other words, if you and I roll up, if we work for a tree cutting company, okay, and we roll up to a hotel tomorrow and there's 20 people in our group and we're working, typically they give you what's called contractor's lowest rate. And it's not the retail rate. Well, these evacuees were charged the retail rate, including, as we mentioned a moment ago, $438 a night in New York City, beachfront condominiums in Panama City, Florida, at $375 a night. Makes me want to be an evacuee for a week. $375 a night, Matt?
For a week.
Okay, 2 weeks. At $375, do you know how much beachfront condo you can lease or buy or rent for $375 a night?
I'm not saying, that it's not absurd to spend that money on a hotel, but at the same time, I am sensitive to the fact that I wouldn't want to be evacuated with no place to go home to.
I don't want $375 a night taxpayer money being spent to house anybody.
No doubt, but I'm just saying don't make light of the fact that these people were evacuated from their homes, saying you'd want to be an evacuee.
Well, yeah. Well, the reports today, one coming from a FEMA oversight committee and the other coming from the General Accounting Office, the GAO, are coming at the same time that Louisiana apparently cannot get their act together about who will control levee boards. Will they consolidate and have one giant focused operation? It's a mess. And I got news for you. There is more waste out there every day, as far as I'm concerned. Let me repeat to you, because I know the nature of talk radio. People are constantly tuning in and tuning out. But I have long felt if you are able-bodied, listen to me, if you are able-bodied and you are in a hotel that FEMA is paying for, you must have a job. You have to do something. You cannot just sit there in a hotel room watching Captain Kangaroo all day long and get a check. Can't happen. You know what? This points to a bigger problem. Outside of the Katrina evacuation, if you are able-bodied, I don't believe you should be on welfare for any length of time. I don't believe it. That is not helping people. That is hurting people, and it's expensive. So if you're an evacuee, I wish they'd make me Director of Homeland Security, or give me Michael Brown's old job at FEMA to qualify. Now, I'm not talking about people who are physically incapable or people who are emotionally or mentally incapable, because there are those. It was my father who taught me, son, in life you have to help some people. But an able-bodied person getting a check in a FEMA-paid hotel room on a daily basis, you got to go or get a job. You got to get it. You got to work somewhere. Why not? Is it asking too much to require some productivity from these people? Is it asking too much to require some contribution on their part? And you wonder why you and I work until May every year to pay our taxes? This is a good example why. This is a good example why. And now to find these millions that were stolen, that's what I'm going to use the word. They were stolen by these people. If you missed it earlier, the estimate is by the General Accounting Office that 900,000 of the 2.5 million applicants who got aid from FEMA's Emergency Cash Assistance Program, 900,000 of them, we're talking about those who received the $2,000 debit cards, 900,000 had duplicate or false Social Security numbers. That's theft. That's fraud and theft. Phil's holding at 499-BUGGS, 499-2847. Hello, Phil. Welcome. Hello, Phil. Welcome.
Hey, Ed. How you doing?
Fine. What do you make of these findings?
I can't hear you, but I just want to comment. That's a broader. It's not just FEMA. There's a lot of waste in the state, period.
Yes.
You know, there are situations where our own state are they're allowing people to retire, then they're hiring the same people back as contractors. There are times when they hire contractors at 3 or 4 times what the state worker is making doing the same job. I mean, I think you're focusing on FEMA too much and not all the other waste that's going on before Katrina, before Rita. You know, you're right. There's a lot of bad apples out there.
Yes.
And let me tell you, did you read the article today? I
hold
think it was
on.
Fox where...
Hold on 1 second. Just hold on 1 second. I want to give you time to get your comments in. You just hold on 1 second. We'll come right back with Kevin in a moment. You're listening to the Ed Buggs Show. Real talk, real people.
Not exactly talk radio for people who don't want to hear the truth.
Time has come to make a choice.
Ed Buggs, locked and loaded and on your radio.
All right, we're back talking about the 2 audits released in Washington today. First, by a FEMA watchdog organization, and secondly, by the Government Accounting Office. Both audits showing that millions and millions of dollars have been wasted in this Katrina recovery program. We're talking about it today locally at 499-BUGGS, 499-2847, or toll free at 866-900-9732. Again, that's 866-900-9732, or shoot me an email. Send it to ed@edbugs.com. Again, that's ed@edbugs.com. Phil is with us on the phone. Phil, you're saying that the problem is much bigger than just these FEMA dollars.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing is, I think you, Ed, I think you use evacuate in a negative way too many times. Because let me tell you, I read this article today from the Fox website.
Yes.
Where this guy in Houston had 20 different aliases. Let me say, the evacuees are not...
Turn your radio down, Phil. The
Out of 900, however many million people, 100,000 people left New Orleans, there's only 3,000 or 4,000 people we're talking about still in these hotels. That's a small percentage of the people that left.
But
using that in a negative way. The problem happening is when all these people all over the other areas that were not in the disaster area started using and trying to get the money. So it's not the evacuees, fault the other people. Okay. Not all these evacuees are guilty of doing it.
All right, Phil, thank you. And Phil makes a good point. And you know, it is only, I think, human that the brush of the stroke of the brush will be a wide one. Let me say it another way. Being a Katrina evacuee does have a stigma. You know it, and I know it. And Phil raises a good point. It's not everyone who was an evacuee that took advantage of the system. Plus, it wasn't evacuees who said, hey, listen, FEMA, that's a $438 a night hotel room over there. I think that's where I want to go. Most evacuees that I know of were taken or told where to go. You follow me? If you just joined us, we're talking about these two new audits showing that millions of dollars were wasted in Katrina aid. Millions of dollars wasted. Many of the people who got these $2,000 debit cards were not who they said they were, did not have the Social Security number they gave. They were lying through their teeth. They saw opportunity. You and I saw personal loss. We saw personal tragedy. We saw hurting people. We saw humanity. A lot of people saw opportunity. That's right, opportunity. Well, like some of the people on the ground. Phil's not going to like this part, but many of the people who were still in New Orleans saw opportunity as well. Flat screen TVs, case of beer. Matt, what was that? What was that? We had the fellow with. What was the logo on that?
Oh yeah, the beer preferred by more looters than any other beer.
Yeah, and yes, Phil, you're right. It was not and is not all New Orleans evacuees, but the good is suffering for the bad, or is taking the hit, if you will, from the bad, because they're being lumped together. They're all being lumped together. And now that we see that millions were actually wasted, a lot of people will have a bad taste in their mouths for all evacuees, unfortunately. Unfortunately, for all of them. The one other note that I wanted to share with you about the findings of these two audits today, and that is this. This is from FEMA spokeswoman Nicole Andrews. She says that offering the $2,000 emergency debit cards was, quote, a calculated risk taken in a catastrophic situation where many people were forced from their homes, often without any identification or basic necessities. It was the right thing to do, she says. You know, there's a bigger ill here than FEMA mismanagement. There's a bigger ill than FEMA mismanagement. When we come back, I'll share with you what I consider to be a bigger issue than FEMA, who, in many cases, as much as you can say about them, were trying to do the right thing. We're trying to do the right thing. I'll share that with you next, and I'll take some more of your emails sent in to ed@edbugs.com. Again, that's ed@edbugs.com. Keep it locked right here on the Ed Buggs Show. Real talk, real people.
Often imitated.
Hi, folks. Ed Buggs here.
Never duplicated. Duplicated.
Hi, folks. Ed Buggs here.
I ain't playing around.
You're listening to the always hot.
It is a hot one. Hot one. Hot one.
The always hot Ed Buggs Radio Show.
All right, we're back with the final segment of this hour of the Ed Buggs Show, Real Talk, Real People. Talking about big developments today in terms of news about FEMA out of Washington. The results of two audits released today showing millions of dollars wasted, and millions of dollars of theft. And in many cases, there is no paper trail to catch these people. Good to have you with us today. We're in the case of the people who lied when they took these $2,000 debit cards. Some of them, as the caller Phil pointed out a moment ago, some of them were not actually New Orleans evacuees. Some of them were not. And in the case of the estimated 900,000 of the 2.5 million, that's almost half. I mean, another 300,000 would have been half of the 2.5 million. Much of this will end up being written off as an untrackable waste of money. Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Again, the only thing worse than FEMA mismanagement, in my opinion, is the human greed that we now know was sucking up millions of dollars.